Coming up, the Lightning stay hot at home as they take down the Bruins. This is Locked On Game to Game, NHL.
Every game, every team, every angle. Locked On Game to Game, your team every day.
Welcome in. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game NHL. Local experts joining us to go over the biggest stories on the ice. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. Robbie Fabry scored the game-winning goal for the Red Wings in overtime to beat the Canadiens last night, and Locked On Red Wings looks at how Detroit got the win.
Their second overtime victory in as many games. The Red Wings take down the Montreal Canadiens in Montreal 4-3 in, well, I said it just a second ago, overtime, Scotty. And this is probably their most complete game of the season. We've been talking about it all year long, marrying the advanced analytics with the final outcome, and it felt like it finally came together in this one.
Yeah, I don't know about the whole season, but it was definitely of recent memory one of the more complete games. And like you said, they outplayed their opponent and they ended up getting the win. We'll take it. We'll gladly take it. Husso, kind of a roller coaster of a game, but stepped up when he needed to. The defense still allowed some really brutal, high danger opportunities. Same story, different day with them. But the offense looked about as good as it has in, like I said, recent memory. And that's the biggest positive we can take away.
Michael Rasmussen stayed hot as he had a goal and an assist, and the goal assist on the game winner. And Moritz Seider had 3 assists in this game. So we'll break down
that ever.
And the coolest stat ever. We'll break down the whole thing on Friday's episode of Locked On Red Wings.
The Tampa Bay Lightning have been unbeatable at home lately, and even the NHL's best in the Bruins could not keep the Lightning from winning their 11th straight in Tampa. Locked On Bruins goes over Boston's loss on the road.
The Boston Bruins lose so infrequently this season that each time they do, it's a bit more magnified, and that's certainly the case tonight after dropping a 3-2 decision to the Tampa Bay Lightning. This is Ian McLaren of Locked On Boston Bruins, and despite taking the season series from the Lightning, tonight's loss is one that the Bruins can and must learn from, seeing as they're a potential, if not likely, playoff opponent. The Bruins never led in this one, and they had some turnovers and defensive breakdowns that left Linus Ullmark exposed, and ultimately the Lightning were able to capitalize 3 times to hold off the NHL's best team. The Bruins will regroup and try to get back in the winning track in a couple nights against the Florida Panthers.
Coming up, Ovechkin and Backstrom once again coming through for the Capitals. This is Locked On Game to Game, NHL. Today's edition of Locked On Game to Game is brought to you by FanDuel. We're super excited about our new sports betting partner because it's the #1 sportsbook in America. If you're new to FanDuel, that is even better because there's so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. New customers joining today, they get $150 in free bets guaranteed when you place that first $5 bet. So you can sign up at FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel has all your favorite bets from the money line, point spreads, to player props. So all of that is on their app as well. That's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Place your first $5 bet to get $150 in free bets, win or lose, at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Welcome back to Locked On Game to Game NHL. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you once again for making Locked On your first listen every weekday. The Capitals and Penguins went to a shootout Thursday night with a goal from Alex Ovechkin and the game winner from Nicklas Backstrom. Locked On Capitals tells us how the Stars carried the Capitals.
Washington Capitals take down the Penguins in overtime by a score of 3-2. Hi, this is Dan Holme of Locked On Capitals. Well, the implications in tonight's game were huge. The Caps were fighting for that top wild card spot, and they got it by taking down the Pens, a bitter rival. The Caps improved to 8-4-1 against Metro Division opponents this season. Alex Ovechkin scored his 32nd goal of the season to give the Capitals a 1-0 lead. It marked Ovechkin's 401st career goal scored at home. Marcus Johansson, who has stepped up and played a big role in this team, got his 13th goal of the season. Backstrom also stepped up and played big as he got the 3-2 shootout winner. Backstrom's 29 career shootout goals rank second in franchise history. Backstrom's 12-game deciding shootout goals also are the second most in franchise history. The Caps hope to keep rolling as they take on the Maple Leafs next as the All-Star break looms. games. I'll have more on this for you tomorrow on Locked On Capitals, your team every day.
Matt Zuccarello scored the overtime winner for the Wild as Minnesota took down Philadelphia. Locked On Wild and Flyers are both in to give you a look inside that matchup.
Zook, there it is. Matt Zuccarello and Matt Boldy lead the Wild to a win over the Flyers in overtime. Hey everybody, Seth Topol, host of Locked On Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, recapping a 3-2 overtime win for the Wild against the Flyers. Fight night to start as the Wild and Flyers fought 3 times in the first period, but then the Flyers able to grab the first goal. The Wild get 2 straight goals from Matt Boldy to lead 2-1 heading into the third, but Tony DeAngelo scores with the extra attacker as the Flyers are able to tie it and send it to overtime. In the extra session, Matt Zuccarello gets his first overtime goal since 2017, and the Minnesota Wild pick up a desperately needed win after a 1-3 road trip to set up a big game on Saturday on Hockey Day in Minnesota. For more on the Minnesota Wild, make sure you're following Locked On Wild wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Russ Cohen here for the Locked On Flyers podcast. Flyers lose a tough one, 3-2 in Minnesota. Carter Hart plays great. Marc-Andre Fleury plays better. Tony DeAngelo gets a big goal late with a minute and change left to tie the game up in regulation. It goes to overtime, and Matt Zuccarello, the Norwegian nightmare, basically goes darting down the ice past a couple guys and beats Carter Hart for the game winner. Kind of a heartbreaker. This game had a ton of fights, and honestly, there was one real fight. That's all I'm going to say about that. But there was some chippiness later in the game, and I get it. Travis Konecny had a bad game. Matt Boldy got in inside position on him twice for goals. Konecny was on the ice for that goal, too, for that final goal. Just not a great game. Now, he did have a really good scoring chance to win it in 3-on-3, and Marc-Andre Fleury stoned him on that. So that's it. Tough game. Check the podcast.
The New Jersey Devils have been excellent on the road this season, but it's hard to keep that up when giving up 6 goals to the Predators. Locked On Devils tries to figure out what went wrong for New Jersey.
What's up? This is Trey Matthews of Locked On Devils, and here is my post-game reaction. So, the New Jersey Devils came out on the losing end against the Nashville Predators by a score of 6-4. The defense let Mackenzie Blackwood down in this game because the Devils coughed up 10 turnovers, 7 of which were committed by the defense. The offense came to play because the Devils had the lead not once, not twice, but 3 different times, blowing all 3 chances, and Mackenzie Blackwood looked good in between the pipes, but once again, the people in front of them didn't hold up their end of the bargain. And the Devils tried doing a Hail Mary by pulling Mackenzie Blackwood when there was 3 minutes left in the game to get the extra attacker, because coming into this matchup, the Devils appeared in 4 overtime battles, and this time their luck ran out. They couldn't send it to OT. Dawson Mercer was able to score when there was 2:14 remaining in the game, but unfortunately, the Nashville Predators were able to get the empty netter. So once again, Devils just made way too many mistakes this game, and they left Mackenzie Blackwood out to dry.
That will do it for this edition of Locked On Game to Game NHL. Thank you so much for making Locked On your first listen every weekday. Make sure you are subscribed to Locked On NHL and your favorite team's Locked On podcast on YouTube and wherever else you get your podcasts from. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On Game to Game.